you don't make money by saving cost. When someone says to me, Don, I need to make more money, I'm not making enough money.
Yeah.
And I go, no, you're not making enough margin. The content provided in this podcast is provided for general information purposes only. Before making any commercial or investment decisions, you should consider your specific circumstances and seek specialist advice from a qualified professional.
We deal with a lot of builders, and one thing that all have in common is they want profitable jobs. A lot of builders, though, they find at the end of a project, there's no profit at the end of the job. This could result from having the wrong margin and not knowing your numbers. So, mate, I'm really excited to have you here today, Don. Mate, what's your business called?
So we're known as the Not So Silent Business Partner.
Yeah, cool. And you focus and you help builders, right?
Yeah, that's our main focus
Yeah.
is residential building, some commercial.
Okay, excellent. And how many builders have you helped, or how many are you helping at like any point in time?
So we've got, I think, 154 residential builders on a weekly basis that we're helping between resi and commercial. And over the last 10 or 12 years, it'd be over 300 builders that we've helped with their technology and their bookkeeping systems.
Excellent, mate. No, I'm excited to jump into this episode. So yeah, we'll be covering three topics. Let's jump into the first one. What is my profit?
So knowing your profit, you've got to use technology to help you keep track of things. I mean, we always used to do it on paper. We got technology to help us there, but you've got to know the breakdown of your numbers to be able to work out your profit. It's probably the best way to say it. I mean, analysing what an employee really costs you. Is something a direct cost or is it an overhead? And getting everything in the right spot so you can know your true gross margin and your true net margin. And then the way you do every builder does jobs differently. And just because somebody makes a certain gross margin doing a certain job doesn't mean the next guy's going to do that. But once you know what your profit is on certain types of jobs, then you can kind of also get to a position where you can specialise in something as well. And of course, then hopefully increase your gross margin when you become a specialist. So,
yeah. So, I mean, yeah, when builders come to you first, like where are they at with their profitability or their understanding of what profit really is? Because they get the $2 million project or whatever, and they're like, this is great.
We're very lucky. Guys or usually come to us seeing me present somewhere, or they've spoken to another builder and they've just got that thirst for knowledge where they're sick of working their whole life and seeing nothing in the bank account at the end of it. That's kind of the real generating starting point. But then there's a mix of guys that have tried to fix that, and everyone's trying to keep track of their profit somehow. But I guess it's about just using the systems and the processes and building a system within the business and then integrating technology with it to keep an eye on those numbers.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and I'm excited to like talk about some of those things in the next few topics. But yeah, when it comes to profit, like, I mean, this is something that comes up in the workshop a lot, and a lot of builders talk about this, is like margin. I think maybe you can help me understand as well, what is margin?
Okay.
Is it just, you just go like, because I know some builders do, cost plus, they just add 25%, and I think that's margin. And there's other cases as well. Like what is margin?
So there is a difference between margin and markup, which we can go into. Over time, it's been a funny thing. I don't know. I reckon some bloke about 80 years ago or 100 years ago says the margin in my job is 20%. And I think everyone just listened to him.
Right.
But what he was actually saying was markup. So the difference between markup and margin is if you mark something up to create a sale price, which is typically what you do when you estimate, right? You work out what the raw costs are, add a markup to it, 25%. But then when you go and analyse the profitability of the job, profit is determined by the amount of profit and the total cost of the job, not by what you marked it up by. So it's just the science of numbers. But a 25% markup is only a 20% margin, and you only bank margin, right? Yeah. So you're only ever going to bank 20% of what the job profit is. So a lot of people have 25% in their brain as their profit, when it's actually only 20. And it is a little bit of an exercise just to show how to calculate that. But
yeah,
you've got to be focusing on markup is just something you do to a number to create a price. Margin is what you make.
Right.
That's probably the best
And I can
way to
imagine,
explain it.
like as builders, especially probably when you're starting out, you go, oh yeah, no, I get that, or whatever, and you just shove it under the carpet. What's at stake if they don't look at this and fix it right from the beginning?
You've got to know your margin covers everything in your business, And if you don't know your margin, what happens is people think they're making money and they're not, and they keep going year in, year out, year in, year out, going, it's okay, it'll be right next year. It's okay, it'll be right next year. But and then all of a sudden you're 10 years into something and you've paid for your mortgage and you've paid for your cost of living and things, but you've got nothing else to show for what you've done. And so by not knowing your margin, you don't know if you're making money or not.
Yeah.
And you're just looking at a bank account. And bank account businesses don't ever make money.
Yeah.
If that's your only judge of how you're going, those businesses never make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, before we go into topic 2 and 3, you wrote a book. What's it called again? The Paperless...
Being the paperless business owner.
Yeah. So why is that so important?
Look, it talks a lot around systems and processes as well when it comes to finance. But the real point behind the book is that if in the olden days, it's not so much now, everyone's probably getting emails and everything, but whether it's a physical piece of paper or an email or a receipt at a service station or whatever, or a receipt at Bunnings, whatever it might be, any hold up in that process getting into your cost management systems stops you knowing your profit. If you don't have good systems and processes and getting that paper out of paper and into technology, as technology moves it quickly. So just holding that paperwork, getting into your system, you'll never know your profit if you're holding that up. You'll always be looking at your profit as a sort of 30, 60 days after it's happened.
Yeah.
And then you can't do anything about it.
And you can't make decisions. You can't, especially, I mean, we help a lot of builders that want to grow, want to go to that next stage. Like, if you don't know that, how do you attack it? How do you know what I mean?
You just need systems that are real time, real life.
Yeah.
I'd say once a week's okay to do it. Like, you don't have to do it every second, but you've got to be doing it on a consistent basis, no longer than 7 days, of having all your paperwork in your systems so you know where your jobs are at. If the paperwork gets held up, then you're flying blind.
Yeah, and that's important to know your profit. But I mean, you talking about that now, that's probably a good time to go to the second topic. Topic number 2 is, builders have to have a job and cost management system in place. So first of all, what is that? Like, educate me. I've never heard of this.
Yeah, righto. So job management's quite simple, and it's probably, when I first started doing this about 12 years ago, working with builders, probably 10% of builders that came to me had a job management system. The most notable ones are Build Exact and Builder Trend that we deal with. There's plenty of others, but they're the most notable ones that we use. So getting builders used to that is a very important thing. To use Builder Trend or Build Exact, people are probably doing a whole heap of manual stuff, and manual data entry style things create errors. And if you're using technology and scanning technology, it stops you entering numbers, which means it doesn't matter how good a data enterer you are, you will mess your numbers up, and that's when things get astray. So anyway, so a builder will start with a job management system. Mm-hmm. So to keep track of, I mean, I've never run a job myself. I'm a computer programmer in accounting systems by trade, and I've ended up doing this for sort of the last 12 years. And
just by the way, how many builders have you helped over the years?
Well, we help 150. I checked the number before I came. 154 on a weekly basis. At the moment. Yeah. Every week we're doing the bookkeeping and accounts and profit and whatever else. But over, it'd be 300 or 400 builders that we've helped.
Yeah, wow.
Because some at all different levels, depending if they're in the middle of New South Wales or middle of Queensland or wherever they may be. Their wife might need a bit of training on how to do things versus us doing it for them. But if you want to get a bit of scale, the easiest thing to outsource is the numbers side. But we've helped a lot of people with this sort of stuff. And the technology behind it with Builder Trend or Build Exact, it's the best thing a builder will ever do, having everything in one spot and making it easy from a job management point of view. But a very important part of job management is cost management. And but cost management is a number of things. It's not just about Builder Trend or Build Exact. Yes, you want to know the cost on a job. I get that. But you've got to make sure you've collected all the costs, and then you've got to make sure you've paid all your costs, and you've got to make sure that you've accounted for it from a compliance point of view with the government. So to do that, you've got to integrate 3 systems together to accomplish that goal. Right. Builder Trend and Build Exact can't do it. Xero is the main accounting software we use. People use MYOB and QuickBooks Online, but Xero is the main one we use. And it does all that reporting to the government. And we also use a paper collection system because just getting all that paperwork in one spot once a week on that weekly cycle is crucial. It's knowing you've got all the paperwork to start with is very important. And getting those three systems to work in the right... So the system around the technology is very important, and it's how you process it. And these softwares help you recognise duplicate bills, checking ABNs to make sure someone's not ripping you off with GST. There's a whole heap of accounting, geeky sort of finance type stuff that just gets taken care of by using the right software. But whatever you do, if you get a cost once, you just want it to end up everywhere and not be entering it 3 times.
So where does it have to... So you're saying you have to put it into one technology, to capture it with one technology, and then it's got to go to the other technologies.
Yeah, make sure they integrate.
Okay.
And make sure it can go into the other ones easily.
So, for example, it should go to Xero and it should go to Build Exact or Build a Trend.
Yeah, so you can integrate Build a Trend and Build Exact different ways for different products.
Yeah.
And there's different things coming with certain softwares too over the next 12 months, which will make it easier. But just getting that piece of paper and getting it into the systems, and as I said, we use a paper collection one as well, but that's more about just making sure we've got all the paperwork.
So how important is this? I mean, yeah, you probably get a lot of clients coming to you. I would assume no one has that in place to capture. It's probably like shoebox style.
Yeah, it's gone a little bit more from shoebox to email inbox.
Yeah.
But people have now heard of HubDoc and Dext, and they're starting to use it. We use Dext to also get bill approvals, just that a cost is real, because there's lots of scams. From my finance side here, the biggest threat to small business in Australia is those bills that come to you that aren't yours, but you pay them anyway. It's the scammers sending the bills around the system. So it's very, very important that you confirm that it's a true bill before you continue with your finance.
Okay, so now you've got a job management system, cost management system. You've got a way to capture it. Yeah, why is that so important?
So, as I mentioned before, along the lines of writing the book, they're not so silent business partner. Sorry, the being the paperless business owner. Get my names mixed up a bit there. It's if you don't know your costs, you can't know your profit. And one of the bigger problems, I suppose, that people were coming to us with a do and charge or cost plus or markup jobs, whatever you call it, is that they get to the end of a job and then they try and work out their profit, and they've actually missed invoicing people, because that one piece of paper for an air conditioning unit didn't make it into the spreadsheet to bill the customer.
Gee.
We've had that so many times. A lot of times people have come to us and said, can you help me analyse why I didn't make money on my last job? Then they usually take on our services after that, because in one instance it was scary. In one instance they were typing all the cost for a do and charge job on a spreadsheet and then emailing it to the customer. And it comes back to my whole don't do data entry thing, because there was an air conditioning unit worth $17,767.75.
Gee, you remember that one.
And they missed one of the sevens at the start. So the claim was for $1,700. So therefore, 16 grand, doing the analysis 4 months after the job finished, you're not getting the money.
Yeah.
So it's things like that as to why the paper capture and the cost management processes are crucial. And with our systems, just by putting the paperwork somewhere, you can print your do and charge materials report by just putting it in one spot.
Yeah.
Before it goes anywhere, you can just put it there and print a report. So if you're ever sending anything to your customers around costs, it should be printing spreadsheets, not typing them. And that is one of the big problems we solve, yeah.
Right. Okay, cool. So printing, paper. It's interesting because your book is paperless. So, yeah, no, that's cool.
It is a bit of a funny thing. It was on Amazon first, but it is a paperback about being paperless. I get that.
That's hilarious. Yeah. No, that's cool. Okay, so so if builders have a job cost management system in place, they've got a way to capture it and stuff. What does that mean for them, like in their lives and so on?
It changes their world. I mean,
why is that?
If you knew on your job once a week, what I profess, not every moment, but if you at least know where you are on your jobs every week, you get a lot more sleep.
Yeah.
If you know you're going bad on a job, you can do something about it. Just don't hide your head in the sand. So the anxiety about money and going, like losing money or whatever it might be. The anxiety is all about not knowing.
Yeah.
It's not about if it's good or bad. It's about not knowing, and that's why people can't sleep. It's like, if you just use the technology, you will always know every cost on a job.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, you always mention this at workshops. The technology is not the system. You've got the system that, like, you use technology within the system to make the system work and run. But I would assume a lot of builders, the reason why they don't look into something like this, there's probably a few reasons. One is they just think it's a daunting task to set up a system like this. They just don't know what the system should be, what result it should create and all that. But I think the other thing as well is they're almost like scared of knowing their numbers, because they're like, well, what if it's bad? And this whole like ignorance thing is like, it's almost easier for them. But yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of mutual clients, and every time I talk to a mutual client or your name comes up, they say things like, the system is set up, it's working, I know my numbers, I know my profitability, I can sleep, all these kind of things. I can make decisions. Yeah, because how do you make a decision if you don't, I mean, we mentioned this before, how do you make a decision if you don't know your numbers? So, yeah.
You can't make good decisions if you don't know your numbers. It's as simple as that. And,
Yeah.
And you're right, it's the system around the technology that makes it work. I mean, everyone can use Buildertrend, Build Exact, or Xero, or Dext or HubDoc in any way they want. But the thing is, over the sort of last 12 years, we've worked out a system where it's efficient and accurate and easy for the builder to use.
Yeah.
And I don't try and force people to use a particular software. I try and be agnostic. But when you know something works, it's a really good thing to use.
Yeah.
And I guess right brain, left brain, there's a lot of stuff that people with finance and numbers and technology just get it. So all you just need to do is get someone to help you set it up. And then once it's set up, it's then a task that is actually quite not too timely, so it is easy to outsource, especially if you find someone who's good at doing it.
Yeah.
Don't hire a professional to help you in a building business unless they've got experience to do with, and I go for accounting or bookkeeping, especially on those two, because they just need to know the industry and the building industry.
Yeah.
You don't need to educate a bookkeeper on how to be a bookkeeper.
Yeah.
You need to someone needs to add value, hence the not so silent business partner.
Yeah.
Whenever you hire someone to help you, always hire someone who's got added benefits.
Yeah.
Not just for the function they're doing.
Yeah. And I agree 100%. I mean, this has come up a few times in my life where I go to a service provider. I'm not the expert at that particular thing. So for example, like mortgage brokers, right? I don't know anything about like loans and all this kind of stuff. I want to go to someone that gives me ideas, that understand what I want to achieve, my desires, my problems, and all those kind of things. But I'm looking at them as the experts. If I go to a mortgage broker that just listens to what I want and then says, yep, cool, we'll do that, it doesn't really add any value. And that's why I love about that's why we niche with builders. That's our focus. We go way deep in the industry. I mean, we're currently doing a podcast here for builders about numbers. I mean, that's crazy. And that's all about like knowing your focus. And that's why I love the fact that you help builders. But the thing is, and we spoke about this before, if you know your numbers, if you know your profitability, you can focus, you can create your own focus. You can become your own expert in your niche. Whether it's, I mean, we've got a client in Melbourne, maybe he's a mutual client, I'm not sure, major heritage renovations. That's his focus, right? And then we've got a mutual client here that does resort style living, right? So you know the client I'm talking about. But that's his niche. So people come to him as an expert. And builders should be doing that. But again, like, how do you do that if you don't know your numbers and have that security and that confidence in yourself?
Yeah. I mean, everyone's looking, when you're building a home, sometimes it's a house, sometimes it's a home, depending on what you're building. You are looking for that expert. Yeah. And if you're focusing on that in your own business, being that building expert, you've then got to get other people to help you with what they're good at. So for instance, if you went and got someone like us involved, we've spent the last 12 years becoming expert in finance in building companies.
Yeah. You know the roadblocks that come up.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't go and build a house. I don't know how to do anything to do with building. Yeah. Because I've made it my thing to learn the finance side and the technology side. And technology changes every day of the week. Yeah. So even if you do set something up and you don't sort of have a partner that stays on top of technology, within 2 or 3 years, you'll then be off the newest technology, chasing the people that are on the new technology. Whereas if you're engaged with someone who's staying on top of those sort of things, it's a bit like the government and all the regulations that they come out with. You hire someone to stay on top of those employment processes, the GST, the accounting side, and things like that. And technology is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Whilst you've got best in market right now, if you keep someone involved with your business that stays on top of that, they'll be telling you when the next best things come along.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so now that we've got job cost management system, I guess set up here, now the next thing is like, the next topic is you have like know your numbers, know your profit. So I guess this is around the analysis. Yeah, what do you do now? I mean, you've got these systems set up. What do you do with the data now?
Yeah. So without good cost management systems, that we call them, that we've been talking about already, you can't do the next step, right? Because you're wasting your time if you don't have the right numbers. I've always said it's how you collect the data that matters. So if you collect it properly and you store it properly, then the next two topics here that we're going to talk about, know your numbers and know your profits, is easy.
Yeah.
It is so easy. You just need someone who's done it before.
Yeah.
I guess we'll start with the know your numbers. You've got to know your big numbers in business.
Why's that?
So when you can only keep a certain amount of numbers in your brain on a day-to-day basis. But if you're a builder and you're out there and you're looking at these next new jobs and things like that, if you knew your percentage of overheads compared to income, you met it and you're looking at a $1 or $2 million job, you can already relate to what it's going to cost you to run that.
Right. So just on top of your head, like as soon as you see this thing, you're like, yep, this is going to be $1 million.
Yeah. And if you know you're focusing on margin, not markup in this instance, you'll then be able to work out what margin that would be in terms of gross profit. And you just know that it's hopefully 25%. But it is whatever it is. But you've got that number in your brain. Okay, so you know that number as well. So it's even knowing numbers like, how much does my employee really cost me?
Yeah.
Like, so when you're actually estimating, you might be estimating for two of your best guys to go and do this job. And your best guys cost the business $120 an hour. But when you break your estimate down, it's only getting $85 an hour. So maybe you need 2 apprentices and one of your best guys going and doing that job.
Right.
So knowing your big numbers will actually change how you operate. And once you've done your estimate and you're running your job, then obviously it's job throughput and all that sort of stuff that you've got to nail. But the biggest waste of money is rework and people having to fix things for other people. And I get there's materials cost to that, but the biggest cost is the labour to redo things.
Yeah, right.
So if
if someone stuffs something up, or is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So the rework to fix it is one thing. But even something very, very simple, and this is what I see this so often, it's like, the guys are working 50 hours a week.
Okay.
And now I go, but you realise you're paying double time or time and a half.
Yeah.
And you've estimated it a flat hourly rate. So now you're actually spending more money than you're getting for every hour that those guys work. Maybe if you've got 4 guys doing 50 hours a week, you actually need 5 guys doing 38.
Right. Yeah.
Just a simple number like that.
Yeah.
That you're blowing your profit.
But you wouldn't know that unless you know your numbers.
Don't work hard, but get the right resources doing the right job as well. So you've got to know your numbers and you've got to understand the science behind that part of the business.
Yeah.
So you've got to know your numbers. You've got to know that by working overtime. So these numbers have just got to be in your head. So when you're making daily decisions, you know the big numbers. And you know that if you're satisfying 4 or 5 big numbers, the end of the day will be okay if you're keeping it within the bounds of the big numbers. Because you don't have time to stop every 5 minutes and analyse profitability and all that sort of gear. Just have the big numbers in your head and then you do the know your profit stuff later. But just you've got to know your numbers. You've got to know what it is to break even. There's so many numbers to sort of sit down and do the analysis on and then just keep them in your head.
Yeah, wow. And I mean, the other thing, especially during these times, one key little word is it's what's in everyone's minds, forecasting.
Yeah.
Right? So how does this help you forecast?
Yeah, so when we get to the second half of the know your numbers, know your profits, so know your profits. So, and that's where we do the forecasting. We try not to call it budgeting and forecasting because there's job budgets and it confuses the whole conversation. So when we're creating forecasts and what are called financial budgets from an accounting point of view, we just call it forecasting, right? So the first thing we've got to be able to do is pull those 7 big numbers from a job to know the true gross profit margin you're getting.
The 7 big numbers.
Yeah, there's 7 big numbers.
Right, okay.
Okay, and build a trend, build exact, you can get them all out of there if you're doing your cost control, cost management the right way. You're just pulling these numbers, right? And you'll know your work in progress, which means you'll then know your gross profit that you're retaining on a job. So you know you estimated the job at, say, 25% margin, but we might have to have reworks. We might have done all these different things depending on what type of job it is and what sort of budget it is on the job. But the point of that is if you then say to me, well, I'm going to forecast the next 12 months, and we can forecast the next 12 months with any one of our clients. Okay, there's no issue there, and it's not done by calendar year, financial year. It's done by the next 12 months.
So it's like a rolling 12.
Yeah, rolling 12 months, because obviously month 1 is a lot more accurate than month 12. Month 12 is just a big guess.
Got it, yeah.
Right? But we can forecast any of that sort of stuff. So it's knowing the margin's the big thing here. You bank margin, you don't bank turnover, right? So if you're estimating at 25% margin and I do my calculations on know your profits and I tell you, well, you're only getting 14.
Yeah.
That'll change the forecast for the next 12 months dramatically.
Right.
How long does that particular job go for? What other jobs are we bringing in to make up the lost 11% margin? Imagine if your overheads are at about 10 or 12%, running a bit rich at about 12%, then basically you're working for nothing on that job if that's what's going on. The point behind forecasting, and I call it the yellow bus, right? It's been the biggest thing, to tell you the truth, since COVID. Builders have changed, and it's probably in the back of the minds of probably everyone listening to this. It's like, we've come from COVID into a slowdown to what may or may not go right or wrong in 12 months or whatever. I'm pretty upbeat about it, but
yeah.
I'm a positive person and I believe things will be okay. But you've got to see that bus coming. If you don't want to just get hit by the bus and you're bankrupt, because that's what happens. So if you're forecasting 12 months in advance, you got plenty of time to jump out of the way of the bus.
You see the bus coming.
Correct.
You can change the way,
Correct.
Where you stand.
And because of the market we've been through with raised materials, impossible to get subbies at a right rate, all that sort of stuff. Now we're going into the slowdown, sort of less leads coming in, probably people fighting a little bit more for jobs and things like that. But you still got to know what your margin is, and you've got to be able to forecast where you're going to be in 3, 6, 9, 12 months.
Yeah, yeah.
If you use Xero the right way, cash flow, you can see 5 weeks cash flow by going to one screen in Xero.
Yeah.
If you use it the right way.
Okay.
So can I pay my bills at the end of the month? You can wake up in the middle of the night, look at Xero, our clients go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Right, so knowing
I bet you have clients do that.
Yep,
They'll be lying in bed like, oh, I just want to know. And they're like, no, I'm not going to get up. I'm not going to look at it. 5 minutes later, damn it, let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, I've done it. I had a motel at one stage for 7 years. I used to wake up every night wondering if I could pay my bills because that was a big rental bill.
Right.
And it's a lot of our knowing that sort of stuff in Xero is built because of my anxiety I had, not knowing. And I was the one waking up in the middle of the night going, shit, can I pay my bills at the end of the month?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So we nail that in Xero, right? So anyone can wake up in the middle of the night, know exactly, can I pay my bills on my trade accounts at the end of the month, yes or no? Again, the anxiety is not knowing. If the answer is no, I can't, then you can do something about it.
Yeah.
The anxiety is not knowing.
Yeah, just going back a few minutes, you mentioned before, like there's a bit of a slowdown, right? And there's like less inquiries. And you're a numbers guy. You look at expenses, you look at profit, all that kind of stuff. What would you say to builders when it comes to marketing, during these kind of times?
I've always had a theory with marketing, and it's never ever changed, is if you stop marketing at any point in time, it's only a matter of when your business stops.
Right, yeah.
And it's early on, probably when I started this, probably 12, 15 years ago, whenever I started physically looking at people's numbers. And it was that camelback, the highs and lows, highs and lows, highs and lows. And it always stems to, I'm busy, I don't have time to market. I'm quiet,
I don't have money to market.
I'm going to market. You know what I mean? Yeah, so it's been consistent, I believe, and I've got no marketing background again.
Yeah.
I've been consistent with my marketing, whether I'm getting 8 new clients in a month or none.
Yeah.
And 8's big numbers for us.
Yeah.
And I still marketed in my business, it's networking.
Yeah.
Building industry is a lot of networking, but with different style people to what I deal with. So every small business has the same sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys do video, and there's all the content in the world now that we can do, and it's just got to be consistent. You've got to. I believe it's an everyday activity.
So, I mean, I'm going to ask you a question. Maybe, I don't know if you know the answer or not, but so there's a few accountants that, like, you know, our accountant, he's a big thinker. He doesn't really, you know, struggle with this. There's a few accountants that that you work with as well. That it's like, you know, people we know that don't struggle with this. But I know some accountants, they go marketing, and on the profit and loss, I mean, if you go on zero, what category is that under? That's under expenses, right? And then accountants would go, you look at this number and this expense. They almost don't even read the marketing. They'll go, your marketing is too high. Scratch that. Let's bring that way down. All right. What do you say to, like, builders? In terms of, like, listening to their accountants in terms of that.
Yeah. So I guess that's where we have some synergies, right? An accountant sees a bookkeeping fee. It gets put under bookkeeping, but they don't understand all the profit and the systems and everything else that we provide. They don't understand what we're doing for a building business. We're a very integral part. We're the one side of the brain of the builder. They don't kind of get that. They just see the cost.
Yeah.
And same with marketing. Then the two biggest costs usually, other than wages, should be marketing and professional services like ours. They should be, because you need them. The other thing, I guess, I've never, when someone says to me, Don, I need to make more money, I'm not making enough money. Sorry, it's probably a better way to say it. I'm not making enough money. Let's look at the costs. I'm spending too much on overheads. And I go, no, you're not making enough margin.
Yeah.
Because you've decided already that your costs are your costs to do business. You don't make money by saving cost.
Yeah. How much? Yeah.
You need to make smart cost decisions when you first do it. Like if Telstra is $73 a month and Optus is $58 and it's the same service, which we both know it isn't, but if it is, then why not go with the 58 if it's the same service?
Yeah.
So you make a smart cost decision. Yeah, you make a smart cost decision at the start and back yourself. You don't then go, oh, God, I'm going to be 20 grand less this month. Let's cut the bookkeeping. Well, then you lose, and same with marketing, exactly the same thing. Then you're losing the stability of your business and the consistency of your business that you did decide was the best way to do business.
Yeah.
So when anyone, especially in the building industry, comes to me and says, Don, I need to save costs, I go, okay, we need to get another job. We need to get it at the right margin.
Right.
Because your overheads... Look, if someone's direct costs, overheads, they sometimes do get higher than 12%. If you've got a growth strategy, your overheads should be really rich, okay, because you're trying to grow.
Yeah.
If you're just operating, it should be around that 10%. If you're just operating the business, but that should factor in everything. Every business needs to market. Every business needs professional services, whether you hire a bookkeeper within the business or you outsource it to us, whatever, you still need a bookkeeper of some sort because you don't have time to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you make money by increasing your turn. You make money by making money, not by saving cost.
That's good.
But smart costs are always very important, though, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, if you look at, like, let's see how we can make more money by cutting costs, you can only save as much as your expenses are, and then you don't have a business because then you don't have employees, you've got nothing left. Yeah. So you can only save that much.
If you cut costs, you can't grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you've made a bad cost decision in the first place, well, fix that.
Yeah.
But you can't cut costs and make more money. And if you don't have enough net profit, you don't have enough money. So it's almost like you got to look at increasing your overheads to help you make more turnover with better margins.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. No, awesome, mate. No, thanks so much for the topics. I mean, we run a mastermind, and I asked a few of the builder guys in the mastermind what questions they have for you. Sure. So I'm gonna run a few questions by you. If you can just
let's do it.
Yeah. So the first one is, what accounting software do you recommend for construction business and why?
Okay, the main one we use is Xero, and the reason for that is it's the easiest for a builder to understand. And it's the quickest software for us to use. And in what we do, time is money. And if we're working for an hourly rate, obviously if something's quicker, it's cheaper, but you're getting the same result.
Great.
So it's the easiest to understand. But the main one is I can show a builder a screen in Xero and they'll get what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, we've been using Xero for a long time. Totally with you there. Next question, what amount, percentage-based or dollar value, would you recommend a construction business to keep in their business bank accounts as working capital or free cash flow?
That's also, that one depends on the size of the
Depends,
business.
yeah. And also the type, like what they focus on. Is it renovation, new home? Yeah.
So if you're invoicing for your direct costs in the correct manner, I've always had a 4-week strategy in my mind. I need to pay whatever the overhead expenses are for the business. I've got to at least have the next month in the bank account. So your overheads should never be, your bank account should never be less than your monthly overheads.
Okay, right.
Yeah, and if you want to be really cautious, you do 2 months.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So-
Cool. Next question. I'm not sure if you can answer this like legally or anything.
Okay.
So if you can't, that's all good.
Let's see.
Yeah. What strategies can you suggest to minimize our tax liabilities and maximize deductions?
Yeah, so again, that is an accountant's question.
But it probably comes down to like knowing your numbers as well.
Yeah, so, but a bookkeeper can answer that question too.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm a BAS agent, so I can answer sort of how do I minimise my costs.
But you have to get your own professional advice.
Yeah,
as
correct.
A little
yeah,
waiver.
correct. But the difference between your bookkeeper and your accountant is, the way I see it is, we tell the story the way it is, so you know what's going on. Mm-hmm. When it comes to tax minimisation, that's where the accountants do come into to fold. But obviously, I'm a business owner, and I do things like buy cars while the limits are up, and I pay max my super and things like that. And But I do know there's strategies in the building industry to go into your own developments to use the tax money in a tax effective way. But I say when you're trying to be tax effective, you need to find an accountant that can help you with that.
So that's the strategy right there.
The strategy
find
is
a good accountant.
Find a specialist accountant that does developments or whatever you're trying to accomplish and go with it. It's, as I mentioned earlier, a industry-specific accountant and bookkeeper is one of the smartest decisions you'll ever make in the building industry if you're trying to make money.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Cool. Another question is, what are the challenges of managing overheads as percentage of turnover as building companies evolve in the early stages? So, for example, a builder transitioning from off the tools on the tools to off the tools. So like running in the office, employing office staff, marketing, and so on.
So that's the biggest leap. I believe the first biggest leap is actually getting an employee for the first time and trying to be able to pay for them.
Yeah.
Then the next big leap is where you say to yourself, and I've done it in my own business, I'm going to run this business now. I'm not going to do the business. So, but there will be a transition, and if you're getting your costs in the right spot and you're charging for project management and site management and things like that, you still will earn some money there. But you've also got to acknowledge that maybe your overheads might run rich for a while. They might run at 17 or 18% whilst you're trying to get the job throughput going. I would say I would make the leap once I had a good workflow for the next 6 to 12 months and with a good margin. So you can't get off the tools if you've got a low margin.
Yeah, got it.
Otherwise you will lose money.
Yeah.
You've got to get your margin up first. So you've got to start getting your 20, 25% minimum because your overheads are going to come up when you get off the tools.
Yeah.
And of course you've got to make sure you cover your costs.
Yeah.
So you can't go, if you're at a 12% margin or something crazy like that, you just can't execute it there. Otherwise, will I go bankrupt before or after I actually get the next job with the right margin? So just get the 6 months good margin work and then just do it.
Cool.
But make sure you charge for project management because that's what you may be doing. And if you're charging for project management, it should cover a lot of your own costs.
Okay, got it. Next question, how often should you look at your P&L and what level of detail should you look at your P&L?
You should do it monthly. And that's what we do with our Know Your Profit system. We've got a whole system around that. One of them is knowing the P&L of every job first, and then then combined as a business.
So do you have like in zero like report? Because I mean, we pull up our P&Ls like every month, every couple of weeks or whatever. So you're saying like, are there reports specifically in zero for a job?
Yeah. So the first thing you check on your profitability is your gross profit margin on your jobs in Build a Trend or Build Exact, like I was talking about before.
Yeah.
Then you make sure that zero is structured the right way with direct costs as direct costs and overheads as overheads. And then you look at the business in Xero, okay, and see how you're going as a business.
Okay.
You need to analyse cash and accrual. Now, let me explain that. So cash is money comes in, money goes out. Accrual is the accounting terminology for when you get a bill, not when you pay it.
Right.
Okay.
Or when you send an invoice.
And that's what profit is. Profit is, when you send an invoice out or when you receive a bill, that's accrual, and that's what accounting is. But that's not cash flow. But you've got to know your cash flows right as well as your profitability is right.
Got it.
80% of businesses that go under, it's cash flow is the problem, not profit.
Yeah. Wow.
And not many people analyse their P&L by cash flow.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very crucial thing to do. And in Xero, it's quite simple. Just tick a box. Cash, accrual.
Got it.
So you can run both in 2 minutes.
Yeah, thanks so much, mate. I really appreciate everything. And I know, all the guys listening or watching this, a lot of value you've given here. If they need your help, what I'll do is I'll put a link in the description of your website. They can learn more about you there, get in contact with you. Maybe if they need any more questions answered or if they need your help. What's the last piece of advice that you would give builders, especially in, where are we now, June 2023?
So know your numbers, know them today. Take that one positive step to work it out, and don't just keep your head in the sand saying it'll be all right.